starts last year. And even the year before that, because Sirianni, his first year, he took over play calling, and we started off 2-5. But then when he gave the play calling duties to Steichen, he really helped develop Jalen the second part of the year and into last season. And then once Howie made the trades for AJ Brown, and made the moves that he made last season, that's how we had the season that we had last year. But then now this year we lose both of our coordinators, and then Sirianni inexplicably decides to bring in Matt Patricia to be a defensive consultant. And then, then we have, and given our defense has still been struggling despite winning, he then decides to demote our defensive coordinator, Sean Desai, and gives Patricia the play calling duties on defense, and then he ends up making it much worse. And I don't know why you would bring Patricia in when he's already had a history of having beef with Darius Slay in Detroit, and that's very well documented. If you look up that information, like, it was documented that Matt Patricia did have issues with Darius Slay when Darius Slay was playing for the Lions. So, all that adds up, and I think there's probably a lot more there's probably a lot more tensions going on in the locker room, because anytime a collapse happens like this, there's a lot of factors that goes into it. And then the breaking point really came down to, because we were 10-1, we were squeaking by close wins. We had close wins against Buffalo, Kansas City. So we were winning, we were winning ugly, but we were still winning. But then once we got to that 49ers game, they came out and smacked us in the mouth. And then our team just never really recovered from that. And then I'm looking at a team right now, they don't trust their coordinators, and they don't trust and it's looking like they don't trust their head coach either. So this is where the rumblings of Nick Sirianni's job security, that's where all that is coming into fruition.
Yeah, and then Jason Kelce also retired today. I saw.
Legend. No, he's on the Mount Rushmore of all-time great Philadelphia Eagles with Chuck Bendarek, Brian Dawkins, Reggie White, Jason Kelce. That's the Mount Rushmore of Philadelphia Eagles.
Oh yeah, Brian Dawkins, Reggie White gotta definitely be up there. Hell yeah. But yeah,
Do you feel like Nick Sirianni should be let go? We didn't ask that question about Mike McCarthy, by the way. I think we should revisit that. But do you feel like it's time? Do you feel like he's lost the pulse of the locker room?
If you look, like, the way the effort from the Arizona game on spoke volumes to me about how they feel about their head coach. Because
did they give up on them last night?
It looked to me like a team that quit on their coach. Like, that's what it looked like to me. And if a team feels like they quit on their coach, you have to let them go.
Well, I'll say this
because to me it's very similar. Because it's very similar to with the Lakers, what happened with Frank Vogel. Because Frank Vogel won a championship, but when it came down to his last year when Russ was on the team, he lost control of the locker room to the point where they had to let him go, unfortunately. And I didn't think Frank Vogel was necessarily a bad coach, but it's just one of those situations where if the players lose trust in the guy leading the charge, you kind of have to pull the plug. Yeah. Especially when you look at the coaches that are available, like Bill Belichick and Mike Vrabel.
I'm thinking what I was going to say was that when you have two great coordinators that, move on, and it becomes more and more apparent every day for at least, for us, it becomes more apparent that it's like, okay, we can tell that it was more of these coordinators than it was Sirianni. These dudes been known that. You know what I'm saying? These guys in the locker room, they've been known that. They know, like, it was those coordinators. They must have felt like some type of magic or the juice that those coordinators provided to the team was gone. And you're left with this guy, and you're probably looking at this guy like, man, you don't know what you're talking about. Man, that wasn't you. Like, yeah, you're getting all the credit, but we know that was so-and-so. We know, you know what I mean? That's kind of to piggyback off what you're saying about losing the team, losing the locker room. I feel like that's kind of what happened. I feel like they're really looking at this guy like, man, this wasn't you. It wasn't your coaching. And then you do something like bring in a Matt Patricia, like you said, Darius Slay wasn't feeling him. People talk, you know what I'm saying, man, And I mean, yeah, we'll never know exactly what happened, or maybe we'll 30 years later in a tell-all or something. But I have a feeling it's like right around those lines where they really probably never believed in Nick Sirianni.
And now also there is a lot more to it. Now we did lose, like, for example, we lost C.J. Gardner-Johnson, like our starting safety in free agency, who to me brought like a nastiness and an attitude to our defense last year. We lost T.J. Edwards, like at linebacker, who ended up being one of the leading tacklers this year for the Chicago Bears. So we did lose a couple of guys in our defense, but you would think that, but we did, get some guys in the draft. You're thinking, okay, like we replaced some of these guys, but fortunately, like some of the guys that we got to replace, they're still young, figuring out. We drafted Sidney Brown at safety, and then he ends up getting hurt towards the end of the year, where he started getting more playing time. And then, both of our corners, Bradbury and Slay, they're both 30. They were both 30-year-old corners going into this year. And I was very surprised that we brought back Bradbury, since we already had Slay, since we already had one corner that was about 30, that was 30 and above. So then we brought Bradbury back instead of C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who was a bit younger. So I was a little bit questionable about that. But since Bradbury played so well for us last year and he was second-team All-Pro, I was thinking, okay, like, you wanted to have two good corners. And then Bradbury just fell off a cliff this year. And then, Slade, started to show some signs of slowing down. So yeah, all that factors in, and then you have the second half of the year where we got away with it the first part of the year, winning ugly and squeaking by, just coasting off of the talent, but the second half of the year, a lot of those bad habits that we picked up throughout the year pretty much caught up with us.
It's crazy how like 30 in the NFL and 30 in the NBA are two different 30s. Like for real. Yeah, man. That's Whew. But I think you got a clean house. How do you feel about that, bro? Oh, no.
No, yeah. We can even talk about Mike McCarthy, even like, because I know you wanted to talk about that.
Yeah. I just wanted to get Noah's take real quick on the Sirianni. Like, how do you feel about that? Do you feel like?
I think Sirianni might be gone soon. Rather than later. I think, like you said, the locker room issue is definitely a big deal to not avoid as a coach. I noticed that happening like when they started like tanking more towards the later end of the season. But yeah, and especially with the new coaches coming in, like Vrabel, Belichick, all those guys, I think they should at least like take considerations at the very least, see what their options are looking like. But I don't know. That's just a huge drop off right there for a team that was in the Super Bowl.
Did you guys see Goddard yell at Jalen? Do you feel like he was going off on him? And Jalen, he was just sitting there like just trying to like not make eye contact.
That's I mean, the thing is that Jalen typically has that kind of like, stoic type of personality.
Demeanor, right?
And like that's fine when you're winning, but that's not
when you're
always
losing,
the best
and then
when you're losing.
I agree with that. Nonchalant would piss me off.
It could be a little irritating as a fan sometimes, like just to see us getting our ass kicked and them just kind of sitting there, and it's like,
I'm good. I got mine. Like that's the kind of like energy he gives. Like I'm good.
And I know that's probably not his intention, but at least that's how it can come across. At least that's how the perception can come across. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a bit iffy to me, but I think Sirianni's probably his window's closing.
Yeah, probably. All right, real quick, let's go back to revisit just the Cowboys. I just wanted to talk about their head coach. I think he's gone, and I think so too. I think that if he's not gone, Jerry Jones is a fool.
I think I will be very surprised if he goes another full season with the Cowboys at the very least.
Very surprised.
Very surprised. He's never done any. He's had one Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers. Like, how do you? Come on. Like, I don't get it. So
But my main reasoning outside of the playoff game is the main reason why he should be gone, because he did not have them boys ready. No one was ready, right? But we've talked about this before, Noah. He told people that offensive coordinator they had last year, he's on the Chargers now.
Kellen Moore.
Thank you. He told the whole world that Kellen Moore was throwing the ball too much, and they needed to run the ball to give Dak a little bit of like space, and so it's not all on Dak, yada yada, and did not do that at all this season. Not just the playoffs. They barely ran the ball at all this season. For that alone, I think he needs to go.
Yeah, but even though in his defense, like I don't really consider Tony Pollard to be a number one type of running back.
True, and he's more. I think he's not
more
power back.
He's more of a number. I think he's more of a number 2 than a number 1. So
they let go of Zeke. I mean, you keep hearing like, oh, Derrick Henry was out there. You didn't make a trade for him.
Yeah, they definitely should have been a little bit more.
That would have helped.
Yeah.
How much does Jerry Jones get in the way? Because we don't really talk about this, but does Jerry Jones get in the way of the Dallas Cowboys' success?
Totally.
It's the pressure.
I mean,
it's the not making a move like getting the Derrick Henry when you telling the world you're all.
I mean, yes and no. I just think yes because like he tends to meddle too much, but no in the sense that he and Stephen Jones do know they have drafted some quality talent.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they have drafted like guys like the Micah Parsons and the CD Lambs and guys like that. Like those are some really high level players, but he wants a coach that's a lot more of a yes man, and that's really where he got into it with Jimmy Johnson back in the 90s. And the only coach that hasn't really been as much of a yes man that has like a strong personality type was when he had Bill Parcells. And that was like in the mid 2000s or so. But other than that, like he hasn't really had that like strong personality type of coach. So that's where it's going to be interesting to see whether is he going to be willing to let his guard down and bring in a guy like Belichick? Because Belichick, if he's going to be brought in, I'm pretty sure he's going to want to have a lot of say so.
So you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Jerry Jones does not have a choice at this point. I mean, like you can't keep getting on TV and talking about how old you are. I had to look it up. Jerry Jones is like 80-some years old, bro. I mean, like. It's like, I don't want to be that guy, but the clock is the clock's ticking.
Clock's ticking, yeah.
Like if they realistically want to win another Super Bowl,
he's got to go all in. Like if I'm Jerry Jones, I'm 81 years old, right? For the next 5 years of my life, I'm going all in. I mean, I'm going right to that, to the luxury tax. I'm getting everybody. If I'm really, really, really trying to win a Super Bowl, but what Jerry Jones, he wants to win the Super Bowl on his terms. He wants it to be his guy. Yep. He wants it to be the players that he drafted. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what Jerry Jones strikes me as. Like, he wants to win bad, but he wants to win on his terms even more bad. And that, I think, is really what gets in the way of the success. Because we don't see Robert Kraft getting on TV talking about, this is our year. Robert Kraft don't have a radio show he does every Tuesday and
post game press conference.
Post-game press, like he played like he was out there throwing the football.
That kills me, man.
Like, bro, like Jerry Jones, he sets his team up so high, the expectation so high that like they just won't reach that, man. They just won't. And Dak Prescott, he had a career year, but he was playing against middle schoolers, so I don't want to give him that. I just think when the game is on the line, when it comes down to like really to building your legacy, man, I hate to really be that guy like, oh, this legacy to find him. Dak Prescott he might be worse than Tony Romo at this point. Really, I mean, outside of the first year, like he really might be worse than Tony Romo, bro. I don't know.
I think Dak, if you put it in perspective that. A 4th round pick, so I mean he has massively exceeded expectations. I mean, if he wasn't the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, I think a lot more people would have a lot more realistic expectations of him because he's a lot more on the like Kirk Cousins, tier of quarterbacks where. And it's not bad to be. It's not bad to be a Kirk Cousins type of quarterback. Like I think Kirk Cousins is a good to very good quarterback. But he's not necessarily that quarterback that's going to lead you to a Super Bowl.
Guys like Kirk Cousins,
because you can be good enough. You can be a good enough quarterback to where you can lead your team to the playoffs, but not be good enough to lead your team to a Super Bowl.
Right.
So what you're telling me is, because we talked about this before, I call it. I'm gonna start calling it the Kirk Cousins line, where if you are better than Kirk Cousins, you are probably a elite, or you're a great
borderline elite.
Yeah, you're a great to elite quarterback, right? But if you